Have you ever wondered where something from your past ended up? That's what this video is all about. So as I was growing up, I started to get an interest in playing music. I think around the time I was 11, somewhere around there, my parents finally relented my requests and got me a really cheap acoustic guitar, I think from JCPenney's, for Christmas. I think they were willing to see if I was going to use this, but not spend a ton of money on something, and then I just don't have, I don't end up actually really wanting to play the guitar. As it turned out, I ended up learning the Hal Leonard book that entire night, Christmas night when we opened gifts, and the next morning I showed my parents all the things I had learned in the book. So I think it was pretty obvious that I definitely had an interest in playing guitar and trying to learn more about it. So eventually they bought me a somewhat cheap Les Paul kind of knockoff guitar, probably from JCPenney's again. Started playing that a lot and learning more and more about guitar and music. And then sometime around 8th grade, when I was about 13 or 14, we decided to upgrade and get a newer guitar. And that guitar, I believe, is what's called a Washburn Hawk. I know it's a Washburn. I'm not sure if it's a Hawk. Here's a picture of me with my Washburn Hawk. Yes, that's me at 14 years old as I started growing my hair out a little bit, and I guess wearing a suit coat while you're playing guitar is what you're supposed to do. And it was trying to fake the Jeff Watson 8-finger tapping from Jeff Watson from Night Ranger when he did the 8-finger tapping thing, which of course I couldn't do. I was just posing. The interesting thing about this guitar is it wasn't the best guitar in the world, but it had this interesting quality to it. And the thing that you may notice is the tremolo system on the guitar. It's hard to see in this picture, but that tremolo system is what's called the Wonderbar. And here's a picture of the Wonderbar up close. The Wonderbar is a tremolo system that I believe uses something called torsion. I'm not entirely sure. What I do know is that it doesn't require you to route your guitar. If you use a tremolo system like a Floyd Rose, there are springs that go in the body, and that's what keeps the tremolo system balanced. The Wonderbar, the intent of it is that you didn't have to significantly modify the body of your guitar, and that it would just sit on top of the guitar body, and you could do things like dive bombs and whatnot. One thing though about the Wonderbar, among many others, is that because it didn't rely upon strings, you couldn't do a lot of really cool effects like the other guitars from Night Ranger is well known for, where you can get this kind of flutter noise if you flick the tremolo system, because that causes the springs to vibrate, and it makes the notes you're playing kind of get this fluttery sound. If you've ever seen Steve Vai, he really abuses his tremolo system on some of the solos that he does. With this system, it was somewhat limited. So, and if you've never heard of it, it's because they went out of style. I don't think anybody uses that kind of tremolo system anymore. But that's what I had. And it was different because at the time there was Floyd Rose, and there was, I think, Collar was the one that was what they call it. And there was kind of like this battle between the two. This was the third one on the block. Didn't win. Okay. Arguably Floyd Rose won, but that's the tremolo system that you see on the guitar. What I've been thinking of lately is, does this even exist anymore? Specifically, does my guitar exist anymore? At some point, I switched to playing bass because nobody played bass in bands, and we needed a bassist in our band because the bassist had left. So we ended up becoming a 3-piece, and I switched to bass. So I traded this in for a PV bass that eventually got traded in for something else in my life. But I still kind of miss this Washburn. there's something nostalgic about it, because I think this was like the first thing I had that was a decent guitar. It wasn't bad. It actually played fairly well and stayed in tune fairly well from what I remember. And it was what I used in my first band. So it had some nostalgia to it. And I traded it in because I wanted to do something different. But I kind of would like to see if I could get this one back. Now I realize this is 30 plus years in history. So the chances of finding this are very slim. Where I got this and where I eventually traded it in is at a place called Goodell Studio or Goodell Music, which was in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. Here's a map that shows where it used to be located. I looked it up now, and I believe there's a restaurant there, along with another interesting establishment. But that was the location of Goodell Music. I don't know where it ended up after that. For all I know, somebody decided to do a Jimi Hendrix on it, light it on fire, and throw it into a fire at a campsite. I have no clue. So I'm just trying to see if there is anybody who either knows who has it or actually has it. On the off chance that there is a possibility that this one could be found, I'd be interesting to see, to talk to the person that actually has it and see where we could go from there. I am keeping my eyes open on sites like reverb.com, Sweetwater, other sites that you can trade and sell instruments on, just to see if I could get something that is close to it. If that ever ended up on one of these sites, I may just end up getting one of those, if only as a reminder of what I used to have. But I am interested to see if I can find that original one. And if I can't, no big deal. I have, what you can't see off camera there, but I have all my guitars and bass guitars over there. And I don't have a lot. I'm not a collector, but I have some. I'd say I've fallen in love with Paul Reed Smith. I have a couple of those, and I find them to be extremely nice guitars. It would not be my intent to play this Washburn everywhere. I have a couple of my Charvels from when I was a teenager playing in speed metal bands, and I still have them. And they need some work, but I'm keeping them because they're good guitars. They still play well, and it's that memory, and I don't want to lose that. And eventually, at some point when I get too old, we'll see what I do when I have to part with them. Hopefully that's a long time from now. But again, what I would like to try to do is see if I could find that original guitar. So if you have it, or if you know of somebody who might have, I'll put the picture of me back up when I was a kid, have that guitar that looks familiar, please put a comment in this video, and we'll see if there's any follow-up to this story, to this video. I will make another one. Either I will end up buying one that's similar, or I'll do that, and then somebody will come by later and say, hey, I did find it. Then I'll have two Washburns. I don't know. We'll see how this goes. So please share this. I'd kind of like to see if we can make that connection, if this guitar is still out there somewhere. So thank you for watching, and I hope to see some comments about where this guitar is in the future.